Play at Novibet.
Hello and welcome back to irishracing.com and our Irish Angle show, reviewing the week's action, sponsored by Novibet. Now, I'm joined once again by Emma Nagle and Johnny Ward. We're giving Vincent a couple of weeks off, maybe to top up his tan ahead of the Cheltenham Festival. But Johnny, how have you been this week?
Yeah, good, Joe. It's we've had some cracking racing. I thought just having Cheltenham on it on Saturday and Paul Townend going over riding for JP McManus, almost a break from his pursuit of Jack Kennedy in the Jockeys Championship, and then the dominance of Willie Mullins after Jack Kennedy having had an incredible run of form really going into the middle of the week. Interest first with the Thyestes where we'd very testing ground, but some very good action as well. I think it was a really good week for jumps racing in general. And what I like as well is we have a new potential superstar who's trained in Britain, which we'll talk about as well.
Absolutely. I mean, like I say, I kind of spoke off air a little bit less controversy this week. We can focus a little bit more on the racing. Emma, how has your week been as well? Pretty busy on irishracing.com.
Yeah, all good now. We were in Martin Brazel's there during the week for a stable tour, so kind of getting excited for the DRF. And yeah, like Johnny said, Cheltenham, Doncaster, and Fairyhouse and Naas over the weekend. Like there was some real kind of Cheltenham pointers, I suppose, coming out of it. And like Willie Mullins kind of really coming into form. I think he's offering about 43% strike rate now in the last 3 weeks, and he had, I think, 3 graded winners within 25 minutes there on Saturday. So he's really getting rolling now. And yeah, plenty of kind of good Cheltenham horses coming out this week, and obviously next weekend for the DRF as well. So exciting times at the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, Johnny, you already touched on Gowran Park as well, but Emma, just take us through some of the highlights just for you from Thursday's racing last week.
Yeah, I suppose, Testie's kind of a big traditional day down in Gowran, massive crowds down there. I wasn't there myself now, but I saw a few pictures and a few videos and stuff. They always draw a crowd, in fairness. I suppose, first off, it was great to see Monkfish back in the Galmoy. I think it's well over 1,000 days since his last win back in the Brown Advisory in Cheltenham. Like, I think anyone who watched him win that day, you'd be hard pushed to say it to be that long before he'd win another race. But good to see him back. Entered in the Gold Cup and the Stairs. Now, they don't really seem to be sure where he's going, probably taking it day by day with him. But I'd say if he turned up to Stairs, he might be kind of a lively outsider anyway, at least. He's cut to about 16-1 for that. Still retains a lot of the ability anyway, so hopefully he can get Cheltenham sound. I'd imagine he'd probably go for the Stairs, but you wouldn't be surprised to show him up in either. And obviously great to see Rachel get her first Thyestes as well on Ain't That a Shame. I think it was Henry's second winner in the race, but kind of a horse who's been given plenty of chances to win one of these big handicaps, so it was good to see kind of her faith in him being repaid. I think she had a choice between a shorter priced horse of Henry's as well, so yeah, it was great. She's living local to the track as well, so you can kind of tell how much it meant to her.
And also, yeah, I mean, talking about Ain't That a Shame as well, I mean, where do you think he goes from here?
I suppose maybe a Grand National might be a target for him. I'm not really sure. Kind of been threatening to win a big handicap for a long time now. That might be his one in the bag. But yeah, look, I suppose winning a Thyestes is a good pot for any horse. So I'd say that might be his big one for the year. But could one well in something like a national, Grand National Irish or English now. I'm not down the line maybe. But yeah, not a big pot for Rob Corr as well. Like what a season they're having. Like I was kind of talking about all of the horses JP has this year, but like Rob Corr has some team as well, in fairness, and they won the bumper as well. Whatever looks like a good horse for Joseph, kind of an expensive yearling. I think he cost 280,000 guineas or something, and they kept him for a bumper. I think he had setbacks all along. So yeah, he looks another exciting one for them. But yeah, great day for them down there.
Yeah, Johnny as well. Any eye catches for you from Gowran?
I really was taken by the performance of Monkfish, and surely they have to think about running this horse in the Gold Cup. Rich Ritchie has not won a Gold Cup. I'm sure it would be a massive ambition for him. I can't remember what price he was for the Gold Cup after he finished his, I suppose not his novice campaign, but after he beat Fiddler on the Roof, which is now, it's 3 years ago. He was basically the best thing since Sliced Bread being particularly highly rated, obviously, around that time. And he'd won his first 4 starts, he'd won them all, and he was such a brilliant jumper. And it kind of went awry then, obviously, when he was beaten by Colreevy. But I thought that performance, I think, he's a 10-year-old now, but, he's a lightly raced 10-year-old. And we talked about other horses as well that are defying age maybe this weekend, but it wasn't the strongest Galmoy. I mean, our 2 top stayers here are both trained by Gordon Elliott, Tioppo and Irish Point, I would imagine. and neither of them was at Goran. But at the same time, it wasn't a bad race. And what encouraged me about Monkfish was how much he found in the straight. I think Paul Townend he was kind of half minding him to an extent, and he didn't want to get after him until as late as possible. He still ended up winning by 5.5 lengths. You've got to remember, this was a brilliant jumper of a fence, and the Stairs Hurdle isn't going to take is going to take a bit of winning this year. I think it's a strong enough renewal. I think that they've got to go for the Gold Cup with the horse. He's going to probably be kept fresh now, I presume, for Cheltenham. And if he can produce that sort of performance, keep him relatively fresh, hopefully he gets over Goran okay. I'd love to see him rock up in the Gold Cup, because the Stairs Hurdle, with all due respect, is nothing compared to a Gold Cup.
Absolutely. And I also mentioned to Champagne Platinum. Emma, you wanted to mention this one as well?
Oh yeah, I suppose there was a bit of drama in the finish of the race. Luke Donnelly got his first winner for End of Ulger. I think he's only his second ride as well. So the horse helped him out a bit in the finish. So he just mistaked the winning post. Like it was good to see that he got to the line, because it would have been a shame to get beat like that. But yeah, it was a good performance by the horse. In fairness, he kept galloping on, but it was drama filled. I think Luke mistaked the winning post, and then the jockey on the second horse for Philip Rattle, was it? Oh, I can't think of the name now, but he dropped his whip on the run in as well. So yeah, it was not short of drama at all. But good to see the horse getting up anyway for the young fella. It wouldn't have been a nice experience now to nearly get your first winner and get beat on like that.
Yeah, definitely taken a lot of learning from that experience for sure. Now, we've already touched on Cheltenham as well, but let's move on to Saturday Trials Day, of course. Willie Mullins again, plenty of winners at Cheltenham. Just Johnny, again, take us through some of the big key moments for you from the day's action.
Yeah, perhaps as we Cheltenham, the main moment was in the first race. I've been a fan of Burdett Road. It's good to see a smallish British trainer have a very exciting horse, and rated 3 figures or so on the flat, and looked like he'd taken to hurling very well, for all that he had made mistakes the last day at Cheltenham, and it was quite keen. He really burst up the hill. But Sergino absolutely left him for dead here, and like I do worry, I do wonder, is there a bit of a caveat with the form? And the Burdett Road was legless to me anyway, crossing the line. He was all out to sort of hold on. He might have been half eased down, but he was very, very tiring up the hill. But Sergino, who seemed to be quite well heralded coming into the race, obviously running in the colours of the Donnellys, is by sire It's Gino, is Gino, and is going to be an interesting sire, I think, as well. Getting some nice horses, and this horse had won at Kempton in a bit of a hack canter, but this was so impressive. I mean, you had a great moment where the two jockeys were coming kind of down to the last, like who's going to pull the gun quicker here. And James Bowen, it was so easy for him, and has rightly, I think, been made a hot favourite now for the Triumph Hurdle. I suppose other races then on the day, Capadano was very well backed. This is a nice bit of placing, and William Mullins is obviously he's obviously targeting the championship in Britain this year. He's putting some good horses over there. This was a lovely bit of place for Capadano, who was demolished by Galopin des Champs at Leopardstown. Like, he was just behind Jerry Colomb on the day, and you're wondering, was that true form? But this was a good form. It was again very well ridden by Paul Townend. Didn't really get after him until late. And I also thought the Real Whacker, as much as this kind of had a bit of a feeling of maybe a Grade 2 type race in terms of which it actually was. It wasn't really, these aren't necessarily Gold Cup winners, but Real Whacker, this was fairly encouraging. It was a good enough performance from him, and puts him vaguely in the picture in the Gold Cup and else. And if all these horses show up, we're going to have some race. But for me, the Sergino's performance was really outstanding, and probably not. Emma might know more about this than me, but probably not like a one of the flashy kind of ex-flat types. He's probably more of a horse that will have a national hunt future in the game, and he's a brother to a staying winner as well. So I think going forward, how exciting could he be? Because I really thought Burdett Road was very good, and he could have beaten him 15 lengths if he wanted.
And of course, another big performance as well, Lossiemouth, I think it's fair to say. Question we put up on Twitter on Irish Racing was, should Lossiemouth run in the Champion Hurdle to take on Constitution Hill? Consensus is saying no, but then perhaps a more measured approach saying, give her an extra year, give her more experience, let her have the Mayor's Hurdle. I know it won't be a given, but it probably will be, let's be honest, for Lossiemouth. But Emma, how do you see it with Lossiemouth and the performance, and also her plans for the future?
Yeah, a big performance. I suppose kind of waiting to see her all year, and like she looked like the superstar last year, and she just kind of came out and confirmed. She's I suppose it's kind of always a little bit of a question with the juvenile stepping up into open company, especially going against the boys like she was. But she's just really, really talented. I wouldn't. A lot of people are kind of calling for her to go for the champion hurdle. I wouldn't be washing her into, to be honest, this year. I think it's very unlikely that they're going to do it either. Like it's kind of, I think Willie spoke last year with Vauban, like he was kind of finding it hard to place him because it can be hard for these 5-year-olds coming up and going straight in against the likes of a Constitution Hill. So like having the mare's hurdle option just seems a lot more logical. I don't really see. I don't think maybe with a year under her belt, she might be able to put a question to Constitution Hill, but I don't see much point in giving her a real hard race against him this year when there is kind of an easier option, kind of as a stepping stone, I suppose. But yeah, she's really, really exciting. Like she could be like Annie Power, go do a mares, do a champion hurdle for Rich Ritchie. She's plenty of ability, and yeah, you couldn't be anything but taken by the performance. And just kind of quick thing about Sergino, like Johnny was mentioning. It'll be interesting. Like you were saying, yeah, he's a massive big horse. Doesn't really look like a juvenile at all, but interesting to watch out for one maybe at the DRF on Saturday. Salvador Mundi. I'm not sure what he won now. He's actually in the same colours as Sergino. I think he's favoured for that Grade 1 or second favourite for that Grade 1 juvenile at the DRF. He was actually second to Sergino in RT back in April, and Willie and Nicky both bought the first two for the same owners. So maybe they might keep Willie's fella as a novice next year because he obviously didn't win in France. But it'll be interesting to see maybe the the two horses from RT meeting in the Triumph Hurdle with the same colours on. To be an interesting one.
That'd be good, yeah. And also wanted to get your reaction to John Bon, obviously getting turned over as well at Cheltenham. So Emma starting off with the performance as well. I mean, it's a jump in the question mark.
Yeah, it just wasn't. Yeah, he didn't really look to ever being like a real proper rhythm. Like we kind of, John Bond's kind of always been like, I suppose last year going to Cheltenham, you were saying everyone who kind of fancied John Bond was kind of doubting El Fabiolo for his jumping, but like I don't know, whatever it is about El Fabiolo, he can make a howler, and he just kind of he's a bit more ignorant or something. He doesn't seem to be bothered at all. If he walks through a fence, he'll just walk through the next one. He'll keep going, but John Bond seems to be a bit more rattled if he makes mistakes sometimes. I think he was a little bit cautious jumping after he made that error, and yeah, he never got into it. But I suppose he made a go into it. Kind of worried would he be okay after the race, but I saw Henderson had a video up on Twitter there yesterday saying he was sound and all. But yeah, like it wouldn't fill you with confidence at all going to Cheltenham. Obviously, he can run. I think around this time last year he put in a bad one as well on the lead up, but I never really fancied him to beat El Fabiolo, and it would kind of just be confirming my thoughts there, no more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And Johnny, as well, you touched on the Stayers hurdle. We saw Noble Yates get first past the post, but against Paisley Park, who ran pretty decently, I think it's fair to say, getting on a bit. But what was your take on Noble Yates and his Stayers hurdle chances?
Yeah, like I think he was sort of 20-1 in run and jump in the second last, and it was basically it's just his stamina and the way he was trained to get up. I couldn't see him really winning the Stayers hurdle. I mean, unless the ground turns really, really demanding on the day. Like I was quite taken by Irish Point's performance, I have to say, at Leopardstown. I think as much as the second favourite didn't really perform home by the Lee, he to me he looked like a horse that does stay the 3 miles, and he's a lot of class. Like Noble Yates, he was actually all out to hold on at the end. Brilliant race to watch. Like it just goes to show that these Stayers going slower than any other horses really, but they still can produce these brilliant finishes. And he's been an amazing story, and another amazing horse that went through Paul Byrne's hands to win a national and to win a race like that. But I couldn't be having him for the Stayers hurdle unless it turned up really, really bottomless. And I think we'll have a good race this year. It'll be fascinating to see what happens with Teopu and Irish Point, because Jack Kennedy have a bit of a dilemma there. But I think Irish Point is very much the one to beat.
Yeah, fair enough. And Emma, any other kind of notable performances from the UK?
I suppose Ashrow Diamond was good winning her mare's race. I fancied the other mare to beat her, Gallimar, so she was quite keen. Probably come on a bit for their appearance, but yeah, like just the strength and depth what he has in the mares this year is really embarrassing. Like I think he has the first 4 in the market for the mare's hurdle in Cheltenham, which might be convincing people maybe Lossiemouth should go for the champion. But yeah, he's like the amount of Grade 1 mares he has, even in the novice ranks, like. But yeah, it's really, really good. Like Ashrow Diamond was brilliant, and Gallimar, so I can imagine she'll come on for the one. Jericho de Rapine, another kind of talking horse who ran over the weekend. I suppose hard to see him. He was favoured for the Supreme, I think, coming into the race, but I wasn't really impressed by it, to be honest. he kind of looks like a horse maybe who might appreciate stepping up and trip. I don't think he's actually been entered in the Ballymore though, so maybe Nicky Henderson doesn't think he needs further than 2 miles. But getting taken off the bridle by a horse like lump sum, he's rated about 128. Like, it wouldn't really be fitting in confidence if you had backed him for the Supreme. Interesting to see, like, will they try and split? Like, JP has plenty for the Supreme, so I'd be surprised if he was the number 1 choice now at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough. And moving on to Fairyhouse as well. Johnny, did you have any standout performances there?
Yeah, like Emma mentioned the mares that Willie has, and it's kind of funny the way the program is now, because there are an awful lot of mares races. But you saw Gavin Cromwell with Bride's Hill going over to Huntington last week to win a race that he won last year with Jeremy's Flame, and I think there's an incentive for mares in this country, but the quality of the mares you're taking on means a lot of these mares races are actually very hard won. And if you're the connection of a penny 100 and you're turning on up to take Jay de Grugy on at Fairyhouse, you're probably fighting for second best, really. And Willie was strongly represented in the race. This was a race that honoured Solarina. I thought this was a really exceptional performance, different ground to what she experienced at Leopardstown. Just travelled strongly in the race. Looks like now if she goes to Cheltenham for the mares race. I'm not a fan of mares race at all at Cheltenham. I mean, be great to have Lossiemouth taking on Constitution Hill. It's just not going to happen because she doesn't have to. But this was a hell of a performance. Drop back and trip shouldn't be an issue. Dr. Dino as well, another very, very smart sort of national hunt horse. And the other horses to note just from the day, the performance from, I think Emma had a stat that the horses who all but one horse who ran the champion bumper last year has won a race. I think Western Diego, again, really, really powerful performance, really proper national hunt pedigree. And I'm not sure what the plan is with this horse, but this was a lot more like it after that reverse at Cork. Really showed that the engine is all there. And the bumper as well, Argento Boy, Jodie Townend she has an outstanding strike rate with her horses, but this is another interesting horse going forward by Jukebox Jury, who has a couple of, obviously the Sire Princess Zoe. Barry Fitzgerald is a very nice horse of his as well that he's going to go hurling with later on in the year, who's been good on the flat and is going to have a good summer campaign. Piece of Heaven, I think is the name of the horse. But Jukebox Jury is getting some nice kind of national hunt horses now, and as much as you're trying to assess the performance, this was again very, very smooth and definitely entered the Cheltenham bumper picture. I think we're going to have a hell of a Cheltenham bumper this year, and I'd be amazed if Willie or Gordon doesn't win it.
Well, that's it. I mean, so yeah, speaking of the Cheltenham bumper, I think, and we're going to move on to Naas as well. Yesterday's action. So you talk about the joint favourite for the champion bumper now. Jasmine DeVoe.
Jasmine DeVoe, really good bump winner again. Another one for you. Like, Argento Boy was good in Fairyhouse, but this fella was probably as taken as you could get from a bumper winner, really, I suppose, for the Munir and Swede, who have they have some luck when they have a horse at Mullins. Like, very, very rarely they don't turn out to be a good one. He just really taken, like, he couldn't really done a whole pile more. Patrick pushed him out to the line and he just kept galloping like he eats up the ground. Gone into, I think, joint favourite now for the bumper. Like, there's a lot of kind of good bumper horses after coming out in the last couple of weeks. But like, you have to put this fella right up the top of it. Just a really, really kind of striking kind of horse, and I'd say sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, and any other performances from Naas as well that stood out for you?
I suppose Embassy Gardens was brilliant, winning the Grade 3 Novice Chase. I think he's probably well up in the market now for the National Hunt Chase, and he looks kind of made for it as well. I suppose he could go for the RSA as well, but I suppose last year he might have been a small bit disappointing in the end. Kind of a promising kind of novice hurdler, kind of petered off a bit, but he looks better for fences now, in fairness. Does very little wrong, great jumper, and stays all day, I'd say. But yeah, if he win for the National Hunt Chase now in Cheltenham, I'd say he'd be fairly hard to beat. What else in Naas? Zarek the Brave won the Limestone Lad, I suppose. Kind of a hard horse to place now, maybe for Willie. I think he might be entering the champion hurdle, but they don't really seem too keen to go to Cheltenham with him. They might keep him in Ireland. Good performance, I suppose, but I can't see him getting involved in a champion hurdle though, realistically, after that.
No, yeah, maybe some better targets down the line. Speaking of big events coming up as well, the Dublin Racing Festival. I mean, obviously, Leopardstown this weekend. Johnny, any kind of early fancies for yourself?
Well, we're going to have a lot of odds-on shots, a lot of short price favourites, and I, in fairness to the meeting, and I think, people have been getting on to me about looking for tickets. I think this idea of festivals is a great idea because, a lot of race meetings now, they either feel like a kind of a friendly in a football game or a cup final. There's kind of no in between. But there's either nobody there, or there's a very good crowd, and there's a lot of hype about it. So we're going to get a lot of flashy horses from the big yards. Probably not as competitive as you'd want. I mean, Nicky Henderson should be sending over Constitution Hill. I think that's as clear as day. He's had he's barely togged out at all this year, and this would be a nice prep for him going to Cheltenham. I'm not sure if Gentleman's Game is going to run. I was talking to Mouse Morris for a feature during the week, and he's kind of slightly worried that the festival might be a little bit closer to Cheltenham than ideal. I think he said 4.5 weeks, and it's interesting the way that he kind of, I suppose he looks that way. I'm really looking forward to seeing Marine Nationale. He's going to be a short price as well when he takes on, his rivals in the Irish Arc. He'll probably go off something like 1 to 3. I thought he was fantastic at Leopardstown on Christmas, really on ground that wouldn't have been ideal for him. Emma mentioned Salvador Monday. The Juvenile Hurdle is going to be a very interesting race as well. In the Gold Cup, just hoping sort of that maybe Gentleman's Game does turn up, and if he Faster or Slow and Galloping Deschamps do show up, we'll have a very good race. Obviously as well, a couple of other horses. Ballyburn is obviously one to note. State Man, I just find this division pretty boring at the moment because they're not running against each other. I think State Man is, for a horse of such ability, because he's been thrashed by Constitution Hill, and Constitution Hill and him rarely meet, there isn't that much excitement about watching him run in Ireland, for all that I think he's an exceptional racehorse. But Marine Nationale is the one I'm really looking forward to, and I hope the weather holds up. It's kind of looking a bit iffy at the moment. This has been a great conception, these 2 days of racing. I think it's, Leopardstown's a fantastic meet, and you imagine obviously that the crowd is going to turn out in force. But if there's one horse I'd like to kind of look forward to, it's Marine Nationale, I think.
Perfect. And for yourself as well, Emma?
Yeah, kind of echo what Johnny's saying there. Kind of a good summary of it. I'm looking forward. I suppose the race I'm kind of most looking forward to is the Gold Cup. We were in Brazos there last week, and it was interesting. Someone actually asked Martin, did he want to? Would he prefer, I suppose, to avoid Galloping Deschamps before the Gold Cup? And he said no, he'd rather. I think he said any Grade 1 along the way is worth winning, and he'd rather find out where he is approaching Cheltenham, and that's kind of a great attitude to have, I suppose. Like Johnny was mentioning, Constitution Hill not coming over for these kind of big challenges. It's a bit disappointing for fans. So to see like I suppose the big two in the Gold Cup picture at the moment facing off in Ireland a few weeks before the big event will be a great spectacle. But yeah, plenty to look forward to there. Like too many to name even. I think the gap between Paul Townend and Jack Kennedy's about 14 minutes now. It could be a little bit skinnier, I'd say, come this day next week.
Constitution Hill was the horse that, like, Constitution Hill came from Ireland. He was basically a point-to-point winner here. He ended up with Michael Buckley almost a little bit by default because he went to the sale and he didn't look great. He obviously didn't win his point-to-point, which was more of almost like an anomaly than anything else. He made a mistake at the last. But, Constitution Hill has won a champion hurdle. He's going to likely win another champion hurdle in March. I don't see what the loss would be, and the hype that this would create for race to bring him over to Leopardstown, even to see him probably win easily. I do think connections at the top of the sport, they should realize that they're exceptionally lucky to have all this money. They're exceptionally lucky to be able to turn down a load of money and come to a race in Ireland, and they should give a little bit back to racing fans and run a horse more often than twice a year, which in Constitution Hill's state like this season for Constitution Hill is turned into a bit of a joke as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I agree as well. We should just see them run more often. I mean, obviously he wants to take care of him as much as possible. Nicky's going to take the.
He's a racehorse. He's a racehorse. He's not a 2-year-old baby. Like,
I think it's a bit dangerous as well. Exactly. Like talking about welfare to do with running a horse on heavy ground. I mean, he's won on it. Like, it just doesn't make much sense. And there's been no evidence that he's ever been fragile or anything wrong with him as well. But yeah, I could go off on a tangent about this. It's I'll leave it be. But.
Well, remember, Emma, they pulled him out, was it, of the Fighting Fists last year when we'd had this kind of, and unseasonal isn't really a word anymore. We'd had a lot of dry weather. I was completely. I took Nicky's point on that, no problem, because you're not going to risk a horse on ground that's almost good to firm if he's that way inclined. The ground at Leopardstown will be beautiful next weekend. There are no excuses. The only excuse is the crap that he's afraid of running them too often.
Yeah, I just don't think you can call a hurdler the greatest of all time if they're not going to go up and show up to all the battles. Like Kevin Blake wrote a brilliant article there last week, kind of referencing kind of older times and the way horses were campaigned, and like talking about the likes of Limestone Lad. And I mean, I saw a picture of Limestone Lad on Twitter there at the age of 32. I mean, that horse was campaigned like no horse would be today. So like to say that a campaign like that can be too hard on a horse and have bad effects on them, I think he's kind of the proof that, you know, they are race horses and they can go out more than twice a year. Anyway.
He should be able to handle it. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, yeah, we can leave that debate for another day. There's plenty more to say about it, but yeah, let's leave it there. But any other kind of big talking points that you wanted to bring up at all? Either of you?
Yeah, we had we spoke of this pre-show, but obviously the loss of the Caldwell prefects for me was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen or heard really in racing, where the horses are promptly put up for sale, purportedly on the basis that connections have been quite upset by some horses passing away recently, which, I mean, I just don't. That's like having 6 pints and not expecting to be a little bit drunk. If you own a National Hunt racehorse, you're going to have a lot of bad luck. And they had put money in, and they've had bad luck. Mighty Potter was that was really, really sad. Like, to lose a horse like that. DB Cooper, a brilliantly named horse, he lost his life last weekend as well. But to promptly just kind of put all the horses up for sale on the back of this, for me, considering the care that they would have been given by Gordon Elliott and everyone else, was utterly bizarre. I don't know what you made of it, Emma.
Bit strange, yeah, just very out of the blue. Like the team they have coming to Cheltenham. Look, I suppose they've lost some lovely horses. Mighty Potter was a big blow, and DB Cooper as well during the week. But yeah, totally bizarre. Really, to be interesting to see where the horses end up as well. Like Gordon was interviewed yesterday. Look, you'd feel sorry for Gordon. Like he's losing 15 to 20 kind of good horses. And you know, he's going to have deep pockets to be able to buy back all the good ones anyway, at least. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they end up.
All right, so one other quick mention as well. You wanted to shout out Warm Heart as well, but another great performance from Ryan Moore. Johnny, your take?
Yeah, like a great ride again from Ryan, and I know we're into 2024 now, but the run of form he's been on with Aidan O'Brien, it's been a brilliant kind of access. Particularly, I think 2023, Ryan was just outstanding at the Breeders' Cup, and this was another great ride again. Brilliant time, and it's just Ryan just doesn't seem to get it wrong at all anymore. He's just flawless performance, and I mean, exciting year for the duo as well.
And just to round off as well, Emma, I know we've got your eye catchers coming this week, but just want to give us a quick horse to follow or horses to follow this week?
Yeah, I'd say you could probably give any of the bumper horses you saw kind of during the week, but I was kind of taking maybe one, like I suppose the one in Sauce will get all the praise, but I thought Joseph's winner in Goran was very, very good. Kind of from a flat pedigree, like he could be a decent bumper horse. I don't know will they go to Cheltenham with him, like he's only 4, but 4-year-olds have won the bumper. I'm sure Q Card won it. Like he'd be getting the weight from the older horses as well if he went there. He just looked green, but like he's kind of got that flat speed. He'd be better on better ground as well. The ground was quite soft and gore, and I don't think they were thinking of even pulling him out because it wouldn't suit him. But very well bred horse. I think he's related to a German Group 2 winner, so he could be very useful in bumpers and maybe even for a flat campaign in the summer as well.
And Johnny, for you, any horses you'll be adding to your trackers?
I'll actually give one that's ran at Dundalk. I mean, I think as Emma says, you could pick 1 million National Hunt horses, 500,000 of them trained by Willie Mullins this weekend. So I'm going to go with Bergamasco. I think Jack Davison, he's a pleasure to deal with as a trainer. He's one of these young trainers that's trying to do well. You know, his family would have bred good horse and all that, and he's nice facilities where he is and all that. But he's been campaigning Bergamasco as if he's kind of a horse that he thinks a nice bit of, even though he's been running him away. Take note, Nicky Henderson. He's a horse who's actually only a 3-year-old now, and he's still quite big. But he ran him again on Friday night, and he bolted up. He was held up by Ronan Whelan, and he's a horse that looked like he wasn't going to get a mile after he'd been beaten a couple of times, but he gets it well. Hacked up off a mark of 80, and I think there's going to be a nice kind of flat handicap in him or something over the 2024, and just a horse who travels very well in his races, and that can be, if you're held up at Dundalk, that can be complex because a lot of the time they go pretty steady in front. But just delighted we have Dundalk at the moment with all the problems with ground and all of that, and the flat season, like the flat National Hunt. I say that the winter flat season is, you know, Dundalk would argue that the racecourse could be used more, but I kind of like the fact that you get good fields nearly all the time, and good competitive racing, and I have to say I enjoyed immensely. And Bergamasco's been one of the kind of stars of the Winter Series.
Definitely one to keep an eye on. Great stuff. Well, that kind of wraps it up for today's edition of the Irish Angle. It's brought to you by Novibet. This week, we've got plenty more coming on irishracing.com. I've touched on Emma's eye catchers. Also, form scan on Friday for the Dublin Racing Festival. But Johnny, where are you going to be this week? What's your plans?
I'm actually away in the Castle Palace with my missus for her birthday.
Lovely
Very
stuff.
fancy.
Very nice. And Emma, how about you?
So I'll be in a racing aligned place, but I'm not at the Dublin Racing Festival for that reason.
I think I was there for a win there. I think they play all the Derby winners over the radio the whole time. So you'll be win with it.
Including in the toilet.
In the toilet, yeah. I actually thought I was imagining it there one day when I went in. Where I was, yeah. I'm racing tomorrow, I think, in Limerick, and I'm in England in Wednesday and Thursday. But I'm hoping to get up to Leopardstown on Saturday to see the Gold Cup. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Well, thanks a lot, guys, for your input as ever. We'll be back Monday next week as well for another edition of the Irish Angle, brought to you by Novibet. If you're going to be betting, as always, please do gamble safely. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel as well. It does help us out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again very soon.